The strongest Titan behemoth in the Emperor plan has finally made its appearance. Rodon is a legendary ancient sky ruler. Unlike Titan X, Rodon is extremely aggressive this time. Earth is truly in danger. At this moment, King Kong was definitely the angriest in history. Ignorant humans ultimately caused great disaster. It released monsters far stronger than Kong and Godzilla. Titan X accompanied Titan X as it dove into the sea, and Kong angrily slammed the water surface, roaring angrily at humans. The story begins with a rescue effort to rescue someone trapped in another. A group of 4 companions from around the world sail a speedboat. They headed toward the huge storm ring around Skull Island. Comrades analyzed that the islands were restless. The pace at which the storm circle approached far exceeded expectations. They have less than a 6-hour window left. Everyone moved cautiously through the process in the forest. Suddenly, they heard the noise and quickly hid. Following the sound, it was a pterosaur, currently being pursued and reversed. A single vulture bit the pterosaur to death before the others could react. Tuju circled once in the air. It stopped right beside them. Several people were terrified. Fortunately, the other party's target didn't seem to be just a few people. After eating the fat worm, it flew away. The 4 were still shaken, keep moving forward. But soon, they discovered something even more terrifying. Before them were the 4 Vajra brothers sleeping soundly, carefully groping forward from the side, afraid of making a sound. She disturbed King Kong, but Black Girl was so focused on him that she didn't notice what was beneath her feet. Although the sound of branches breaking did not wake the Vajra, but King Kong turned his life around because of this. Kate barely survived through the gaps between her fingers, and the group continued forward. Finally, they arrived at their destination, a destroyed apex base. Previously, Hongzhi had rescued his daughter here. Kate's device can open space-time rifts, is a key to rescuing his companion Shower. However, the equipment was broken due to damage caused before the Kong. Denjin Taro decides to start the backup generator. Hongzhi and Kate stayed behind to continue repairing the equipment. Kentaro quickly found a backup generator. The sound of the generator starting up caught the attention of nearby monsters, strange creatures, searching for traces of humans by scent. The distance between them was already very close. Kentaro, hiding behind the cabinet, felt a sense of remnant in his heart. He threw the flashlight in his hand to the side to attract the monster's attention. The 2 escaped from the other side, but were still discovered by the monster and caught up. The 2 of them narrowly killed the monster. Meanwhile, companions struggling alone in the jungle, Shou also encountered a titan in boar form, covered in ice. Just as he was about to sprint, Xiao reached for the hem of his pants. He only had a dagger, and on the other side, Kentaro and the others had already returned to the ruined base to reunite with the 2. But Hongzhi never pressed the activation button. Meanwhile, 2 helicopters arrived to stop the group. Hongzhi explained, when she rescued her daughter Kate before, they spent more than a year testing under ideal conditions. But clearly, the current conditions are not ideal. But Kate didn't want to give up, because Shaw had saved him before. He cannot let the other go and leave the other world alone. Meanwhile, the helicopter had already landed, and people were urging the 4 to leave quickly.
Along the way. If we don't get along the way, will we get out? We only need a few hours.
You tried, Kate.
But if you close it there, you won't know what will happen.
But Kate recalled the scene when Shaw desperately tried to save her. Resolutely, he turned around and turned on the switch. The fluctuation instantly caught Vajra's attention. A massive energy surged. The pillar of light shot skyward, forcibly opening the space-time rift. The aircraft was sucked into a space-time rift. Meanwhile, the monster in front of Xiao hurriedly ran away. Xiao immediately realized something was wrong. She hurried to check on the monster. Sure enough, he had already awakened. Xiao hurriedly closed the hatch, but was caught by an insect. Solve it. After the bug, she hurriedly activated the flying vehicle, although it is extremely dangerous. But it was also her only chance to return to the real world. She followed the footsteps of the monster on the energy beam that also rushed into the space-time rift. The people in the real world were also preparing to evacuate. At this moment, the monster was about to crawl out of the space-time rift. The monster's shape had basically taken shape within the energy beam. Soon after, Shaw's aircraft also returned to the real world. But as soon as he opened the hatch, King Kong came over angrily. Everyone thought the enraged Kong would kill them all. But after observing, Kong smashed the energy-emitting device with a single punch. Although the space-time rift was closed, it was already too late. Seizing the opportunity, everyone hurried toward the helicopter, preparing to leave. As if he knew the secret within, General Shaw said. During the helicopter flight, Kong, glaring angrily at the humans from the front, quickly caught up. Accompanied by Titan X diving into the sea, Kong had no way to deal with the other party. He angrily smashed into the sea. He turned back and roared angrily at the helicopter. This time, they really got into big trouble. Humans clearly haven't realized that releasing an ancient sea lord back into the ocean. What does it mean? Titan X from the second season of the Emperor Project finally appears and reconciles with Godzilla. Kong 2 is a 100-meter level ancient Titan monster. When enraged, the whole body radiates a red warning, and even more frightening. As an ancient ocean lord, Titan X can control an ancient small monster called the Scarab. They attach themselves to the massive body of Titan X, and thousands of scarabs are on the path of Titan X destroying Earth. It will bring a huge crisis to humanity. The human group took a helicopter back to the Emperor's ship. Little do they know, a scarab had long since attached itself to the helicopter. Meanwhile, inside the ship, the Emperor organization has tracked down Titan X's movements. It is moving at 35 knots toward the South China Sea. As the current highest commander on board, Tim tried to contact Director Barris. But I was told that communications had been completely cut off because the storm circle outside the island emitted a strong electromagnetic field. This caused all satellite links to go offline and require time to repair signals. It may even require ships to leave the interference range. This means they have temporarily become information islands. Tim realized that no one knew about this giant beast at all. Everyone was waiting for him to give the order, and just as he hesitated, Colonel Shaw appeared and proposed that the sword ship immediately pursue the giant beast. Shaw completely ignored him. Tim directly urged the Emperor to take action. Tim tried to brush it off by saying he needed to wait for Washington's orders, but Shaw was completely unmoved. He warned, if the giant beast were allowed to land in a densely populated area, it would be a huge disaster. Tim tried to refute and emphasized that it was not a warship. He also accused Kate and the others of trying to save Shaw. That is what led to the current situation. After a tense standoff lasting several minutes, Tim still compromised. He ordered the tracking of the giant beast. He demanded that an alarm be sounded immediately after leaving the island signal interference range. He ordered the ships to keep a certain distance from Titan X. Meanwhile, in another corner of the cabin, Kentaro and Benichi believed they released a giant beast together. Her heart was filled with guilt.
Unleash the Titan. I didn't know that will happen. It doesn't.
Matt, Terry, you didn't push that button. West should have never pressed that button.
Kate turned around and walked away when she heard this. She thought they were all strange. He pressed the button himself to release the giant beast. He is suitable to be held. Kate hadn't gone far. He found the corridor covered in bloodstains. He followed the trail of blood straight ahead and found the scarab. It turned out he had just easily killed a crew member. Kate immediately notified her companion via internal phone. At the same time, he took out a fire extinguisher and confronted the scarab. As the scarabs approached, the fire extinguisher's safety ring got stuck. Fortunately, Kentaro arrived just in time, injured the scarab, and saved Kate. Kate sturdily took a fire extinguisher and stormed the scarab in anger. But little did they know, the entire ship would fall into a crisis of destruction due to immense energy. The light waves traveled along the surface of the sea to Titan X. At the same time, everyone in the control room discovered Titan X, about to reach the densely populated human zone, suddenly changed direction. Everyone was shocked to discover the giant beast was accelerating toward their ship.
I think we might have thrown it up.
After seeing the scarab Kate had just encountered, Kiko and Shaw immediately understood that the giant beast was here specifically for the scarab. From their conversation, I learned that Keiko had seen scarabs and Titan X long ago. Shaw made a snap decision to give the giant beast what he wanted. He led his men to the cabin where the little monster was held. Fortunately, the scarab was resilient, not dead. Shaw planned to use this little monster as bait to lure the giant beast away from the side of the boat. Shaw loaded the little monster onto the speedboat, sailing along in a speedboat into the sea. Everyone on the deck anxiously observed the behemoth's movements. The speed of Titan X increased again. The gap between the two is rapidly closing. Seeing this, Xiao Air immediately walked to the back seat, untie the scarab's restraints and throw it into the sea. But Titan X was already close to the waves brought by its massive body. It was clear they were about to swallow Xiao Yar. On the deck, Keiko turned away, not daring to look at the waves again. Xiao Yar surged through the huge wave at the last moment, escaping danger. Xiao stepped forward boldly. He saved the lives of everyone on the boat. Scargua also dove into the sea, just like thousands of others of its kind, attached to the massive body of Titan X. After achieving its goal, Titan X turned and left. He paid no attention to these insignificant humans. Watching Titan X walk away, Kiko couldn't help but recall that night decades ago. In 1957, Keiko and her companions came to an island to investigate, just in time for the local fishing village festival. The villagers explained They believed it was necessary to please the great sea god. The atmosphere of the festival for a bountiful catch carries a hint of ancient and mysterious charm. Villager celebration reached its peak. They carried offerings in ancient rituals. A man cuts open the fish's belly with a knife, then kneels down. His hands were stained with blood, then he drew a strange symbol on the woman's head. Then everyone around quickly dispersed. After urging the two to leave quickly, the woman quickly left as well. Immediately after, the two felt a tremor from their brother and looked back. Countless insects were heading in their direction. Or perhaps it was the direction of the sea approaching. Izzy and Shaw hurriedly fled, trying to hide inside the house, but every household's front door was tightly locked. Immediately after, they saw a huge sea monster rising from the sea. It was Titan X. At this moment, his entire body was glowing red and angry. The scarabs also showed the same color, all converging toward the Titan X. It seemed he had no intention of attacking the two of them, until Shaw Air kicked a passing scarab. The Titan X from the Emperor Project finally revealed its formidable strength. Godzilla also finds it hard to deal with the world. This time is truly dangerous. But the only thing to be grateful for is the first stop of the monster battle was Japan's relatively niche audience. Perhaps they also noticed that the current Titan X has no desire to attack. Clearly, it was conserving its strength, or rather, it held an even greater secret. Only when his little brother, the Scarab, was attacked. That is why he stepped up to fight back. But it must be said, Titan X is definitely the most responsible mother. There were at least hundreds of thousands of scarabs, but when one of them takes damage and sends a signal, Titan X will also become enraged. He would also wait until the last turtle team attach themselves to his body. Only then will the red glow on your body turn to a normal color. Moreover, the color on the scarab's body changes accordingly. From this, it can be seen, scarabs are extremely important to Titan X. It is very likely a symbiotic relationship. Previously, Keiko met Titan X's island for the first time. It can basically be confirmed as the fixed spawning site for Titan X. After receiving all the scarabs, Titan X just glanced at it indifferently. The two of them turned and left silently. But Keiko picked up her camera and captured this historic moment. But the islanders who came out caught him red-handed. They tried to get Keiko to hand over the camera in her hand, because the islanders regarded Titan X as a deity. If the photos were to be taken by some pagans, they would tarnish their land. Titan X is here to lay eggs. It has brought abundant marine food resources to the islanders. If he doesn't return, everyone's life will be affected. Therefore, their secrets must never be leaked. At that moment, the excited islanders had already made their move. As a soldier, Xiao Er seized the opportunity to counterattack and took the other party hostage. The two seized the opportunity to escape. Facing the pursuit of the fallen people behind them, Xiao Er cleverly took out the camera negative. Then he threw the camera in the opposite direction. The two of them hid in the shadows and narrowly escaped disaster. But after escaping, the two of them ended up arguing.
What shall ways thus follow you into every situation against my better judgment? But you're right in toting your very goddamn time. I'm saying Jime reckless. Yes, Kay, we almost died out there. What in Tayu? Understand about that.
Yes, we almost died, but dear, ice always been opposed. Civility, and if you can't handle it, you can't leave.
In the end, their feelings overcame reason, and Keiko took the initiative to kiss her. Something that shouldn't have happened between the two of them. Xiao Er no longer cared about Huizi, already have a partner, and the other party was precisely his own proportion of time, returning to the present. Titan X has disappeared, and the Emperor Organization's ship engines have been damaged. I can only stay at Tokyo port for corrections. And the mastermind behind it all. Kate finally realizes she has made a grave mistake. He decided to leave, seemingly escaping from it all. In fact, Kate has always had a knot in her heart. The reason he desperately wanted to save Xiao Er at all costs. It was because years ago, when he first met Godzilla, the enemy was enraged by the military's attack and was raging wildly on the Golden Gate Bridge. Such close contact made Kate fearful. But more importantly, on this day, he lost a student on a school bus, and this incident has always weighed on his mind. Meanwhile, everyone on the ship is worried about losing track of Titan X. The last time I encountered this was 3 years ago when I lost Godzilla, which led to it. Now a giant beast is roaming outside, and the Emperor Organization is trying to keep it secret, to avoid panic. While everyone was pondering how to conceal the existence of the giant beast, Huizi suggested that they should not sit and wait for death. Instead, it can be directed to areas far from densely populated areas and develop response strategies. Because the scarab's sound last time attracted Titan X, if they can simulate this sound, they can realize the plan. But the transmitter capable of replicating this sound has already been destroyed on Kongang Island. This was proposed by Hongzhe. In fact, in his laboratory at Irotani in Tokyo, there is also a prototype that after modification, it should achieve the desired effect. But just as they were discussing, the command center was suddenly taken over by a group of people, led by a leader named Jason. He claims to be the leader of the special projects at Apex Company, which is the company of the Apex Company. Because they lost track of the giant Jason's team, he temporarily gained command of the number 18 outpost team. As the current highest commander of the ship, he immediately said he wanted to contact Director Barris. But what surprised him was that Apex's involvement. It was the director's instruction. He explained in a video call, Team's order was to track the behemoth, but he abandoned the mission to save the merchant ship. As a result, the monster's whereabouts are now unknown, and Tim defends his decision. It is crucial to emphasize the experiences of Colonel Shaw and Dr. Huizel. Not listening to them is very foolish. However, Barris was firm. He stated that Apex provides advanced technology to find a giant before the public discovers. He needs Tim's full support for Apex. After handing over Xiao Air and Huizi and hanging up the phone, Tim explained the situation to Shaw and the others. Apex is a well-funded tech company. It is very advanced in the fields of biomedical and neuroimplant technology. The Emperor organization began outsourcing equipment to these organizations. The tech giant's previous actions on Skull Island, it was only thanks to Dingdian's financial support that they were able to successfully save them. But everyone doubted Apex's motives, believing that this company is definitely not motivated by humanitarianism. As long as the giant beast sector can make money, they will give their all. Now, to cover up the truth and avoid widespread panic, the Emperor organization, having to cooperate with Apex Company, the Empress ultimately chose to trust Xiao AR and the others, and decided to let them go without permission. At parting, the Empress Dowager reminded everyone to be careful, because once they escape, the Imperial organization would mobilize large numbers of manpower to pursue them. Despite the bumpy road ahead, the plan to attract the giant beast with its voice, it is their only hope at present. The group arrived at Tokyo's Irog at night, preparing to head to Hongzhe's studio. The Emperor's response was extremely swift. On the giant electronic billboards on the streets, a notice about the wanted poster for Shaw and Kiko appeared. But the group still arrived at the studio smoothly. They found that huge prototype. Hongzhe explained, this machine is based on Dr. Lin Mu's giant beast phone, designed and manufactured in its original form. Although smaller in size, the power is much stronger. Back then, Dr. Lin Mu officially used it to accidentally awaken Godzilla. Now, they need to modify this machine. This allowed it to emit the giant beast sound wave signals it had previously captured. This is a massive project that requires considerable time. And now, the Emperor organization is hunting them down. The giant beast was still on the run, and time was running out. To advance the plan, they decided to act separately. Hongzhe went to get some necessary parts, while Kiko and Shaw needed to go to the office to get the original wiring diagram. On the other side, the suspended Earth Mother was disheartened, drowning my sorrows in a small noodle shop. There, he met with his old friend Metam and joked. He devoted his life to the Imperial organization, only to realize he might have pressed the wrong button. Pillar Tim expressed his concerns. He believes that Apex Corporation has taken over the assets of the Emperor organization. There must be a conspiracy behind this incident. What they see now is only the tip of the iceberg. To uncover the truth, he made a request, hoping to use his abilities to apply for a position at Dingdian Company, become his undercover agent. At the top, Tim was worried. If Apex really is up to some kind of conspiracy, it could trigger another disaster like the San Francisco Godzilla incident. Meanwhile, Kate returned home to San Francisco. He walks alone on familiar streets. The feeling of coming home, both intimate and unfamiliar. When his mother and stepfather saw him return, they excitedly hugged the family with him, curious his experiences during this time. But Kate only said that everything felt a bit unreal. His family comforted him, no matter what he had been through. Now it is all over. It is all in the past. In Tokyo, Kiko and Shaw sneak into Hongzhe's office to search for the route map. While searching, Kiko saw photos of Kate and Kentaro. He was surprised to discover that both of them were his sons. Hongzhe's children are half-siblings with the same father. He asked Shaw to confirm about Hongzhe's past, but Shaw said, this matter should not have been his own responsibility. This made Kiko realize that everyone has their own secrets. On the streets of Tokyo, Hongzhe and Kentaro also got the parts they needed. For safety, they decided to return to the studio separately. On the way back, Kiko mentioned him to Hongzhe. My father said his office was very similar to his father's. This stirred up Hongzhe's memories of the past. Huizi spoke frankly. He saw photos of Hongzhe's office and his two families, and asked if he had been married twice.
I know I left you a long time ago, but I'm here now. I won't tell you.
I wasn't married twice. I loved two women.
He admitted that he had followed his inner desires, and believed that someone like Kiko might not understand these words. This made the atmosphere between them feel a bit heavy. However, meanwhile, after May returned to Dingdian Company, he quietly entered the company's internal system. Soon, he made a shocking discovery. Apex surveillance system has been tracking Hong Jijian, Taro, Shaw and Keiko's group. He saw their real-time surveillance footage at the Segu intersection. What shocked him even more was that he discovered that the person at the apex was positioning and prepared to take away the prototype, immediately alerting him. But it was too late. When Hongzhe and the others returned to the studio, it was discovered that the prototype had vanished. They don't understand why the apex wants to take it. Do they want the whole world to know about the existence of the giant beast? At that moment, a security alert was broadcast on the bar's TV warning. A giant beast appeared among the citizens. A new giant beast has appeared in the Pacific Ocean and is considered extremely dangerous. The world order is once again facing a severe test. This news woke Kate up. It instantly shattered his emotions. He returned to the Golden Gate Bridge once again, the place where Godzilla once met. I recalled all the little moments from before.
But if you open the door again, you don't understand what will happen.
After losing the prototype, Hongzhe fell into despair, trying to comfort him, suggesting he could build another device. They have a blueprint to accomplish together, but Hongzhe believes that. He took 6 years to complete this prototype, and while they were gathering the parts, who knows how many people the giant beast might kill. Keiko suggested returning to the Emperor's organization to seek their help. It turned out that when Hongzhe was 11 years old, his father, Billy, abandoned him just like his mother, Keiko. He never came back again, but based on Keiko's understanding of her husband, Billy would never abandon his son. Little do they know. In 1962, while Billy was cleaning the attic, he accidentally discovered a letter from Shaw. And this letter was written after Shaw and Keiko left the island. Huizi wrote a breakup letter to Shaw.
Dearly, I do love you. I always have, and you always will. But Billy, so what's happened between us can never happen again. In another world, this could have been about us. Maybe in the next lifetime, we will find out each other again. Until then, I am in your cake.
It was this letter that led to Billy's departure, and he has been missing ever since. This was the first time Titan X had actively attacked humans everywhere. Suction cups and spikes with huge tentacles emerged from the backwaters. Amid terrifying roars, the heavy hull was crushed like a toy. Meanwhile, scarabs on the beach are also summoned, move in the clear morning. It turned out that this beach was a spawning ground for Titan X. Titan X actively attacks to protect the scarabs from harm. Meanwhile, Dingli and company secretly imprisoned many monsters. He had already mastered the method to control the monsters. At this moment at the Emperor's organization's monitoring center, the tense atmosphere has reached a breaking point. The sonar scanner emits a harsh prompt sound. The giant beast has appeared in the waters of American Samoa, and news of the patrol boat going missing. This made all the staff feel a sense of urgency. He commanded everyone to enter combat mode, and the data on the surveillance screen was frantically flashing. Prediction algorithms analyzed fluctuations in every sonar backhaul. The results showed a massive object weighing 20,000 tons, moving at an astonishing speed through the dive area. According to model calculations, his landing point actually pointed directly to densely populated San Francisco. This means thousands upon thousands of lives will face catastrophic destruction. Yet, others, however, seemed unusually excited. He believes this is an excellent opportunity to prove the strength of Apex Corporation. He even suggested treating this disaster as a business, demonstrate their still developing detection technology to the Beast response team. In a rundown hotel in Florida, Xiaomei identified the stolen spirit wood device based on clues. It is right on the basement level of the Apex lab. At that moment, a sudden message on his phone broke through the temporary bottleneck. The giant beast will make landfall in San Francisco in 23 hours. This news plunged everyone into a huge panic, especially after learning that Kate is now in San Francisco. A fierce dispute erupted within the team. Hongzhe wanted to fly halfway across America immediately to rescue his daughter, but Shaw insisted on carrying out the original plan, luring away the giant beast before disaster strikes. Although there is no guarantee of success, but if they don't work together, San Francisco will become a complete hell. At this time, San Francisco was plunged into unprecedented chaos. The Emperor organization had already raised the warning level to the nearest level. The tallest Kate walked among the crowd, moving against the flow. This oppressive atmosphere made him feel suffocated. At that moment, a familiar voice called out to him. That was the mother of his former student.
He wouldn't. Beating Edger if it wasn't. For you we with him. Moutoft, that boozy wee she did more you colt. Abernan saved yourself. After what most people did that day. Beauty you ate something.
It turned out that day Kate had rescued Michael in a critical moment. At this moment, Kate's long-standing guilt shattered by this pure goodwill. Although he always felt he hadn't done enough, even when powerless before the giant beast, in the eyes of survivors, he had long been the hero who reached out to help regardless of safety. This affirmation made Kate fully awakened, and he decided not to run away anymore. To fulfill that responsibility that belongs to you, return to the in-secret base. The team began to refine the infiltration plan. Xiaomei skillfully hacked into the Apex system, locked onto the target with underground access. Shaw assigned Hongzhe to handle the production, enough to stir up chaos throughout the entire building. They must find the stolen timber device as quickly as possible. If the device cannot be activated before the giant beast arrives in San Francisco, using sound waves to lure Titan X away, all efforts will be replicated. Meanwhile, news on TV about the giant beast's failed interception was airing. Let the atmosphere drop to freezing again. The defeat of the Pacific Fleet was almost a done deal. Ordinary force simply cannot stop this natural god-distance beast. With only 4 hours left on the landing, the operation entered the final second phase. Because Xiaomei had already agreed with the executives beforehand to return to work at Dingdian Company, so she smoothly entered the office building at the top. Her former colleague Liam recognized her immediately. Xiaomei said he had made an appointment with his leader, Holland. Taking the opportunity to sit aside, he took out his computer finger, typing rapidly on the keyboard. The moment the USB plugs into the interface, data flows like a flood, started rushing across the screen. At this moment, all the companions need to do is hold Horan off, delaying his arrival at the company. Jian Tailang took out his gear and walked under Holland's car. The process of extracting vehicle damage data was faster than expected. Shanli password extractor quickly showed the extraction was complete. Next, Xiaomei activated the network scanner, locked onto the frequency of the fake radiation alarm. In an instant, the red alarm lights throughout the building flashed wildly. The piercing alarm sound pierced the bottleneck of the office. In the face of this sudden crisis, human survival instincts overcame reason, and Xiaomei deliberately pretended to be terrified. Leading the shout, "Radiation leak," he guided the panicked crowd to evacuate outside the building. To make the scene more realistic, they even prepared professional yellow, protective suits, disguised as radiation groups, entering the field. They brazenly entered the monitoring center, and as the last employee left, the entire building was completely under their control. Deep underground inside the monitoring room, the group finally uncovered the darkest secret of Apex Corporation. The creatures appearing on the screen made everyone hold their breath. It was a creature from Skull Island that had been secretly brought back. These strange-looking true beasts were trapped in a narrow space. The space feels wild and restless. It turns out that the people at Apex Cyber Technology are not just observing them. They are even conducting some kind of brutal biological experiment. They were not only studying the beast's weakness, it may even be attempting to create some kind of biological weapon capable of countering nature. To avoid alerting the enemy, they had to endure this anger for a while. Prioritize completing your own task. Xiaomei walked over to Holland's computer. The system locked the precise coordinates of the Spirit Wood device, located in Area 10 on the first basement level. Shaw urged everyone to speed up, because the countdown to the giant beast's landing had already entered the last 2 hours. At this moment, from the surveillance footage, everyone saw that Holland had already arrived at the company on his bicycle. For the sake of her classmates' actions, Xiaomei had no choice but to grit her teeth and hold Horan back. But Holland brought Mei to a laboratory here. Xiaomei spotted a juvenile pterosaur and recognized it at a glance. This is a monster belonging to Skull Island. Holland immediately activated the device next to him, and a countdown appeared on the screen next to him. The previously irritable little pterosaur suddenly quieted down. It flew straight onto Holland's arm, like a pet.
You made this possible, Cora. Your code. It allowed us to short-circuit the creature's natural aggression.
It turns out that Apex can use Xiaomei's code to temporarily control monster aggression. But now I've hit a bottleneck and can only maintain it for a short time. So now they urgently need Xiaomei's return.
You wanna make these see things, you pets?
This is what coexistence looks like. And we're the only ones trying to make that happen. Not Monarch. If you want to save the world, Cora, Apex will let you do it.
Meanwhile, Xiaoer and the other arrived at the secret chamber where the monsters were held. All the true beasts held by Dingdian Company were released. At this time, Holland took Xiaomei back to the office. Xiaomei took the opportunity to pull out the USB drive. Immediately after, someone came to report that the imprisoned creature had escaped. True beasts attack on the surface, causing chaos among humans. Amidst the chaos, Xiaoer and Hui also found the spiritual wood device. This is currently the last model capable of simulating scarab sound waves. This is the key to luring Titan X. But Xiaoer was horrified to discover the device had already been disassembled and damaged. Everyone looked at the spirit wood that could no longer be repaired. The device fell into unprecedented despair. However, just as everyone was about to give up and look for a way out, a wall caught everyone's attention as the lights were lit up again. Those long-sealed research materials were presented before them. These were actually the results of Billy's work back then. Every photo, every briefing records, Billy's ultimate pursuit of the truth. They found a never-before-made photo on the wall. The red route on the giant beast migration map. It precisely passes through every core node of the Earth. It turns out that information considered secret. In fact, it had long been written on these yellowed papers. Apex Company has also been aware of the Behemoth's movements. At this time, during the maritime interception, Titan X's actions took an absurd turn. Thim suddenly discovers that the people of the Apex Corporation are preparing to evacuate from the ship.
Hey, what's up?
20,000 tons off the 10, about to run into 5,000 sailors. That is what I said. Where the fuck are you going?
Whoa, I'm on my way to meet the main Apex team on the ground in San Fran. Soon Sathinavi blasts this thing up. We reckon Aga-1 mop append some analysis.
No. Thanavi cannot blow this thing up. It is gonna go right through those ships. And then what?
Team realized something was wrong. Soon, the commander discovered the Pacific Fleet, the massive target tracked by sonar. It turned out to be just a goldfish. This huge blunder stunned everyone in the commanders. Team looked at the screen and the perfect curves gradually faded away, first shocked, then bursting into disbelief and laughter. It turned out that the so-called giant beast warning was actually just Indian company, digital shadows manufactured using some advanced equipment. This false echo successfully fooled everyone. He also treated the Imperial Organization and the Navy like monkeys. This is not a technical malfunction at all, but a carefully designed feature by the other party. The goal is to demonstrate its ability to control the flow of information in the free trade market. This feeling of being toyed with in the palm of your hand, this made Tim feel an unprecedented anger. In the information age, the terror created by algorithms is more hidden and deadly than the monsters visible to the naked eye. At this moment, Shaw also learned from clues about Titan X's upcoming moves. The destination, San Soledad, is exactly where Shaw first discovered Titan X, the regions. Everyone packed up the documents and quickly withdrew amid the chaos. But when Sword Talon contacted Xiaomei, she decided to stay by Holland's side. So it turned out Holland had just shown him what he had just shown. It gave him hope. Xiaomei decided to try this method to stop the giant beast. When everyone returned to the base, they were surprised to find Kate waiting for them.
Sorry I left it. Got scared and didn't. Tuantanya nails attack at the Artie because you have mebetetanas. I think I can help.
However, when Hongjae was cleaning through the materials he had just brought back, but unexpectedly, he found a letter. It was after her mother Hui betrayed her father, a breakup letter to Xiao Ar. Everyone has learned about Titan's movements. People from the top company came to southern Chile. San Soledad made advanced preparations. The broadcast kept looping and counting down. The level 2 alert giant beast will arrive in 13 hours. And the code Xiaomei uses to control the nerves. This will serve as the main method against Titans this time. But Xiaomei hesitated, since this time she was controlling a Titan-level beast. Meanwhile, Shaw and his group also flew to San Soledad, and Kentaro was very puzzled. Why are they so certain? Titan X's destination is San Soledad. Huizi then explained. Previously, they had visited the island, where the islanders held festivals for Titan X. To summon his presence, the islanders called him Konkai. However, based on previous data and predictions, it is estimated that the affected area appears about once every 15 years. At this rate, Titan X should not reappear until 2023, but now it was a full 6 years ahead. The reason might be that Kate activated the Spirit Wood device on Skull Island. Awaken the giant beast early from the world axis. This means Titan X didn't emerge from the world axis because of Kate. He has his own time rhythm, while Kate has just moved it forward. Based on clues from Xiaomei, it is very likely that Apex Corporation will use neural implants to control the giant beast. But is their goal really just to stop the giant beasts from attacking humans? When Shaw and his group arrived at San Soledad, Vertex has already completed its deployment on the island. Naturally, they were discovered as well. But now Apex Company had to make sure they didn't cause trouble. And more importantly, they can't bring in the Emperor's organization. At the same time, the Emperor's organization was also heading towards San Soledad. However, since Apex did not immediately synchronize the information with them, the Emperor's itinerary was clearly far behind. At this time, suddenly, the alarm on the warship sounded. Titanx follows the same path as the Emperor organization, but obviously, it was much faster than warships. Fortunately, the opponent was just rushing along the way. Titan X went straight ahead, skimming past the Imperial organization beneath the warship. Clearly, it was already too late. So Tim immediately shared the news with Xiaowar and the others. At this point, Titan X was only 16 kilometers from Sensoleda. Holland was still reporting to his superiors and everything was proceeding according to plan. Little did they know Xiao'er and his group had already begun their operation. They wanted to stop the Vertex company from launching the neural implant device. Once this device becomes ineffective, it only angers the Titan X, and they have always believed that the purpose of the Apex company is not pure. They quickly discovered the drone carrying the neural link. Kate saw Xiaomei by the window, holding a tablet in her hand. He was extremely anxious. Jason rushed over, urging her to evacuate, because the giant beast would arrive in just over 10 minutes. Just as Xiaomei was about to leave, Shaw called out to her in the darkness. He wanted to ask face-to-face what Apex was really planning. Xiaomei walked into the house. Kate immediately questioned why May's determination to help Dingdian was so firm. He believed that what they were doing could prevent the next San Francisco incident. He even said excitedly, "They have made tremendous progress. We'll be able to control the giant beast."
Which one can you hear? Which one did you hear?
Which one did you hear? Which one did you hear? Whoever I hear, you hear whom?
The two groups parted on bad terms, and Kate immediately seized the key point of conflict. Why does Dingdian keep it from the Emperor organization? Xiao'er looked out the window, revealed the true core of terror. Because the person on the leash not only helps prevent the giant beast incident, it can also precisely replicate similar events. This becomes a weapon, and this judgment explains the pinnacle. Why keep it secret? Why complete the proof of concept before the Emperor organization intervenes? At this moment inside the Apex control room, my brother suddenly shook violently. The scarabs deep in the dark cave also felt the summoning tide stirring. Taking advantage of the attention of Apex Company, the waiter and his group immediately took action. But they were also detected by surveillance equipment, and to prevent them from sabotaging the drones, Holland immediately decided to launch the drone early, and Shaw was knocked down by the air current. At this moment, the scarab army had already arrived. Everyone hurriedly took shelter inside the house. Only the collapsed Xiao'er remained. Shaw took the opportunity to hide behind the altar, letting the scarabs crawl over him. When all the scarabs rushed into the sea, Shaw was already covered in wounds. Everyone dragged the injured Xiao'er inside. At that moment, Kate heard Titan X's voice. As if summoned, he froze and walked toward the seaside. Most of Titan X's body surfaced above the sea. She quietly watched Kate, exuding an overwhelming presence. At that moment, the people inside noticed that Kate was missing. Hongzhi rushed out of the room. She finds Kate and Titan X very close to each other. Worried about his daughter's safety, he hurried forward. But Titan X doesn't seem to want anyone to get close. It was like a kind of link, usually one person and one beast, slowly approaching each other. This was Titan X's first close encounter with humans. His whole body was overflowing, seemingly without any malice. At this moment, he seemed to have formed some kind of connection with Kate. But just then, humans launched an attack. This is Apex's latest neural implant device. He wanted to use this to control the Titan-level beast, Titan X, roaring in fury. It really was quite a big impact. Titan X emitted a sound wave. Kate clutched her head in pain. Hongzhi seized the opportunity to rush forward, but the others seemed unfazed. From the footage just now, we also know that Titan X is a twin child. At this point, the control room tried to operate the equipment. The opponent's Titans struggled painfully in the electric light. The light became chaotic. The control room data stream shows its prefrontal cortex and almond box show intense nerve discharges, indicating that he is in a state of extreme fear or aggression. The edge control room is preparing to enter full consciousness. Taking over them disrupted the monster's physical reactions, causing the monster's muscles to twitch all over. But Xiaomei soon discovered the system was overloaded. It turns out monsters have too many neurons. The return loop triggered a massive data spike. Their systems can no longer hold out. Meanwhile, scarabs were deployed, and countless scarabs gathered at the wound. They actually bit off the tentacles of Titan X directly. This is to cut off the influence. But when the massive tentacle fell, it still affected Kate and the others. Meanwhile, data loss in the control room. The operation failed. Holland urgently ordered everyone to evacuate. At this point, Titan X was already furious. The color on her body began to flush. After venting his anger, he turned and returned to the sea to leave. At this moment, Kate was surprised to find that his father, Hongzhi, was pierced through and barely clinging to life. At the end of his life, Hongzhi lay in his mother's arms, wheezy. He admitted that he missed most of Kate's life and missed too many moments. When his son Kentaro called the medical staff, Hongzhi had already fallen silent. After Hongzhi's death in the previous episode, Kentaro as the son harbors deep resentment toward Kate. He blamed Kate for releasing Titan X from the Earth's core world, and was also puzzled. Why did Kate get close to Titan X by the sea that day? This directly led to his father's death.
Dad's dead. How long before Godzilla shows up? Pawn cleans up Kate's mess.
Kentaro couldn't help but recall the time spent with his father on Skull Island. Back then, he was very curious about the giant beast, so he often secretly went to the Forbidden Zone to copy the portrait of King Kong. But King Kong seemed to have always known about his existence. The next second, Vajra bared his fangs and roared angrily. Kentaro nearly lost his soul, but even after Kongo's roar, he didn't chase after him. He simply turned and slowly walked deeper into the valley. At night, Kentaro rushed to the high-voltage power grid isolation barrier. He picked up a twig. The power grid crawled out from below. Just as he got up, his father Hongji appeared beside him. Kentaro casually said he was out for a walk, and Hongji didn't expose him. He only focused on the sketch in his hand. Original. Hongji opened the book, and inside it was full of Vajra diamonds. There are also sketches of various plants and terrain. Hongji's expression darkened as he watched. She grabbed a can of beer from the car and tossed it to him. They will activate the device the next day to rescue Kate. This will also trigger a series of chain reactions. On this day, Kentaro was also the first to know about the world at the Earth's core. The flow of time is different from the real world. A year passed inside, but only one day in the real world. Kentaro stood in the darkness, watching his father leave with that feeling. It is strange, like someone who just said their last words in advance. Just as expected, not long after, Hongzhi died. On the day of the funeral, an elderly man wearing a hat also came. When the old man met Huizi, he was instantly shocked. It turned out the two had met decades ago. The old man officially developed the tomb device for the tomb doctor. He and Huizi were of the same age, but the face of Kiko before him showed no trace of age. After a conversation, it was learned that Hongzhi had actually kept in touch with Lin Miu all along. He often visited a small island. Lin Miu took this opportunity to invite them to his place to sit for a while. He said he would go before the Emperor organization found that giant beast. Maybe it will give everyone a breather. Dr. Lin Miu actually wanted to seek help from a few people. In the end, the group agreed. Before leaving, Xiao stood alone in front of the red branch tombstone. He took out a golden folding knife and placed it on the altar. He seemed to entrust some kind of promise to the dead. He will find a way to get everything back on track. Xiao was talking with Lin Miu. He said he wanted to destroy Titan X to avenge Red Order, but Lin Miu was very straightforward. Titan X is not so easy to defeat. Actually, Xiao Er understood well, but he actually had other plans to use Godzilla's power. Lim's expression clearly changed, because this means Shaw is about to pull another, even scarier thing into the game. Meanwhile, Kate and Hui are having a heart-to-heart at the dock, but Kate's feet were placed on the lake surface. Suddenly, tiny ripples appeared. Kiko's expression instantly turned serious. He said he'd seen this kind of outfit before. It was a giant beast. It is only available when you're nearby. But according to the case, that giant beast should be thousands of kilometers away. Kate could only be honest. It all started when he released that mysterious giant beast. This situation has always existed. You'll immediately realize that Kate's anomaly is not an illusion. He asked Kate to explain everything, then pulled him back to run. He said he needed to measure the signal strength Kate received, which might allow him to modify the spirit wood device. At that moment, Shower and Li Miu were also preparing. They loaded the equipment onto trucks, ready to set off. Go to Kong Mountain, where there is a fissure. It was the one Shou saw when he woke up in 1982. But Kiko heard them approaching the crack, immediately object. This could add another head to the planet. The giant beast Shaw, however, bluntly stated that Godzilla is not an ordinary giant beast. Kate and Hui were both frightened because they realized Shaw wanted Godzilla and Titan X to fight. To find the answer before Shou does, Kiko sets up the device by the lake. He sank the Hin energy device into the water. He said he wanted to convert the fluctuations inside Kate's body into electrical signals. Kate sat by the dock. Put your feet in the water. Waveforms appeared on the test device, but it was very weak. So Kiko asked Kate to go a little deeper. This indicates this signal. Although Kate was scared, because the last time she approached the giant beast felt like a nightmare, but in the end, he still jumped into the lake, where the dark, thin red line beneath the water. Suddenly, a deep monster roar came from beneath him. Kate spun in the water as if being pulled by something, her face turning pale in pain. But May saw the poisonous tree soaring from the shore, but she quickly realized something was wrong. Stop recording immediately. Bubbles rose from the lake and Kate held onto them, like a lost signal source. After she came ashore, the two listened to the replay. Only piercing laughs echoed through the speakers, asking for help from far away. Kate said softly, he felt lost. Meanwhile, Lin Miu and Shaw arrived at the edge of a huge mine. This is the location of the crack. Shaw activated the device, and energy began to gather. The next second, a pink and purple beam of light exploded from the bottom of the pit. Smoke and dust surged up together. Xiaoer received an abnormal signal. But whether it is a giant beast or not, the worst part is, Xiaoer was pulled into the pit by an invisible suction. Lin Miu was flustered and finally cut off the power supply. The beam of light finally contracted and disappeared. After the bright light faded, Xiaoer saw aurora-like spots in the air. He had never seen such a spectacle in his life. Just when they thought the experiment was over, a hoarse voice came through the radio.
My butcher. Dead. My ship is dead. My ship is dead.
Xiaora was so terrified that he was stunned, because this voice comes from myself decades ago. Shaw suddenly spotted a strange light at the axis of the world. There was also a smell of burning all around. Little did they know, danger was approaching. A massive plum dragon saw him as prey. The waiter flees in a frenzy, but there was also a dangerous interception ahead. Relying on his survival instinct, Xiao Er rode back to his feet, but the monster was getting closer and closer. Suddenly, a large amount of viscous liquid took control of the beetles. Then, Li Zilong dove down and grabbed the beetle. Only then did Xiao Er escape disaster. It turns out that at the end of the previous episode, the elderly Xiao Er actually contacted his younger self through the radio, but he concealed his identity. At this time, in 1962, Shaw had just arrived at the center of the world. He thought this radio was the base's control center. Shaw nervously reported his encounter with the monster. Old Shaw recalled the scene of his first time entering that world. He suddenly had a bold new plan. They currently don't know the movements of Titan X, but if the young Shaw now equips a tracker on the Titan X, can the real world track the location of Titan X? To accomplish this plan, Old Shawer and Li Miu began to take things step by step through the radio, guided young Shaw in disassembling complex circuit boards inside the warehouse. Shaw was inside the cramped cabin, accurately extracted the young Ji from the integrated circuit according to the instructions, and connected them to the attitude indicator wire. Shaw was full of doubt about this move, not understanding how it could get her out. Old Xiaoer told him gravely they needed a giant beast to open the crack. This was to find him a ride home. At this moment, Jiang Tailan was packing his luggage. Preparing to leave, Swordwolf explains to Xiaomei that he has received an invitation from an acquaintance. You have to go to Thailand. Xiaomei tried to ask for details. But Taro suddenly lost control of his emotions. He was tired. Everyone is directing his life. I'm tired of it. They were required to be responsible for the family and the imperial organization. He just wanted to make decisions for himself. Xiaomei gave him a complicated look, then turned and left. But in the corridor, two mysterious men in suits blocked their way and forcibly took her away. Xiaomei was captured by the Emperor organization and brought back to the ship. Because Xiaomei's equipment had already caused Titan X to deviate from its original migration route, they needed Xiaomei's code to figure out what impact it had on the giant beast. Meanwhile, Kentaro had already arrived in Thailand. The person he wanted to meet was the daughter of the founder of Apex Company, but in reality she was an adopted daughter at the top founder. Although he is one of the world's top tycoons, but she was still troubled by infertility. Even the world's top IVF experts are helpless, so they adopted him. But within a year of adoption, the two had a child.
It came from Axis Mundi, and it is
Kentaro.
I hate Apex just like you hate Monarch. They all want to change the world. I want to build a new one, but I couldn't do it alone.
The woman actually had an extremely outrageous plan. She wanted to turn back time to before the San Francisco Godzilla incident, turning our gaze back to the world's axis from the past. In the mist, Shaw unexpectedly discovers a dilapidated camp. Old Xiao's expression changed drastically upon hearing the news. He firmly ordered Xiao Er to stay away from that camp. But Xiao Er simply wouldn't listen. He shouted Keiko's name deep in the mountains, desperate and agitated. He firmly believed Keiko was still alive. Old Shaw tried to calm him down and, in a moment of urgency, blurted out, "You are not the control center." Shaw sensed something was wrong. He was horrified to find that the voice on the walkie-talkie was exactly the same as his own. Under intense questioning, Old Xiao finally confessed that he was the elderly version of himself. Young Shaw completely broke down. He could not accept the reality. He then excitedly stated, since Keiko is still alive, he must change the past. To save him, Old Shaw warned him sternly. If she intervenes now, she might change Keiko. The original future has made everything uncontrollable. Huizi no longer needed to intervene blindly in rescue. It may push him off the path that could have been saved. The young Shaw heir, amid pain and struggle, ultimately chose to compromise. Meanwhile, Kate and Keiko are studying complex waveform textures. Keiko excitedly pointed out the overlapping textures stacked on the visual wave device. This is exactly the resonant frequency of the Song of the Giant Beast. Huizi analyzed that the giant beast had deviated from its migration route and was now lost, and Kate is very likely the key to finding him and sending him back to the world's axis. The two continued to study deeply their companions. She flipped through photos and handwritten notes in her old notebook. Speaking of local legends, there is a kind of demon that lures victims into darkness. The companion took out a huge sketch of a sea monster, and several old photos of village women explained. These women described the devil's voice as a profound shock. If these women could understand, what kind of connection is that song conveying? Maybe you'll find Titan X Kate and Kiko at a Japanese-style wooden pavilion. Kate believes the ancient well is a channel connecting the song of the giant beast. Determined to go down the well to find answers, Keiko tried her best to stop him because he had made similar mistakes before and regretted them for life. But Kate's eyes were firm as she encouraged Keiko, "Be brave," facing Kate. She was roped around her waist and slowly slid down the bottomless shaft. However, just as he was about to reach the bottom, the rope above suddenly snapped. Meanwhile, Yunxi had already found her as instructed, that rocky mountain emitting a faint blue glow. Old Xiao told him, "This is Jianxiao from Titan X," taking out an ice draft and forcefully smashing the rocks. It revealed the black folds inside, resembling the skin of a creature. He took the tracker glowing red, tightly stuffed deep into the glowing crack. Just as the installation was complete, the rock walls began to shake violently and peel off. The giant beast awakened, its massive living form rising upward. Old Shore guided him over the walkie-talkie toward a forked tree. That is where the cracks open. He could use this to go home. At the final moment, when communication was about to be lost, Old Shower's eyes glistened with tears. A heartfelt request, the past self. Take good care of Kiko and Daishi's children. Then, communication was completely cut off, and Old Shower sat alone atop a desolate mountain until everything was destined. Kate groped in the darkness at the bottom of the well. Fortunately, he did not die. He shouted to Kiko at the well mouth to let her know she was safe, and discovered a tunnel that might lead to the sea. Following the tunnel, Kate finally escaped the predicament and returned to the tidal flats by the sea. He explained to the still shaken Kiko that Jinshita's feelings were very clear. Those women went down the well just to listen to the song of the giant beast. Kate firmly believes the giant beast is neither lost nor dangerous. It just needs human help. All the clues, finally, on Dr. Lin Mu's tablet, showing a strong red flag heading toward Australia. In the Emperor Organization's monitoring room, staff nervously reported to the higher-ups. They received an extremely unusual signal. It was actually the signal from the first step into the world's axial vehicle in 1962. The screen shows Australian waters. The dynamic coordinate signal appears as red pulses. Movement speed exceeds 40 knots. The system finally confirmed that this was the Titan X they had been searching for. Meanwhile, Titan X is swimming rapidly underwater. Immediately after, the sea beast near the desert shore suddenly broke through the water, and then it stirred up a tremendous wave. Jill discovered traces of Titan X on the beaches of northeastern Australia. At this moment, his tentacles were wildly swinging, countless scarabs heading toward a nest. The surveillance hall of the Emperor Organization was already in an uproar. The screen is filled with alerts and data accountability. Radicon site received a message from the Secretary of Defense. The minister's meaning was clear. Australia has already demanded that the US fulfill the Titan X defense agreement, and they see this as an opportunity. Meanwhile, Shaw quietly observed the Titan. After action, he found the other party was standing there the whole time. It seems to be laying eggs. So Shaw immediately prepared to take action. He took out a heavy wooden box and smashed the device into the sand to secure it, and then assembled a more complex honeycomb-like device to set it up. Next, the tablet debugging and other devices began to operate, and the energy fluctuations grew stronger. The command center of the Emperor Organization, which frantically attracted Godzilla's attention. At the same time, he was watching the energy readings of Titan X. At this time, the data keeps climbing. The technicians confirmed Titan X hasn't moved much since landing, but its energy output has been steadily increasing. Some judge that this surge of energy was very similar to Godzilla's state before launching an attack. So the situation is very grim. Immediately after, he received news that a fleet of 20 warships was on its way. Tomahawk cruise missiles carrying nuclear warheads on board. The people in the control room will arrive within 3 hours. Hearing the word nuclear bomb clearly made it hard to hold back at this moment. But in this lifetime, it proposes that Titan X migrate along the same route. After traveling the world for many years, there has never been a record of attacks. It wasn't until Apex intervened in Sensolida that he strayed from his path. The most important thing now isn't to blow him up, but to figure out why he deviated, then get him back on track. Kate even made it clear Titan X needs to be rescued, and the commander is very impatient when he hears this. He felt a sense of foresight, a threat. With clear coordinates, this is the opportunity to deal with him. The atmosphere grew more and more tense, but in the end, they relented and gave them one last chance. Next, they began preparing to send Kate and the others ashore. Kate persuaded Kentaro had no reason to go on adventures together, but Kentaro insists on stopping Titan X from causing more deaths. Kai was especially unaware. The other party has a special purpose. When the helicopter approached the beach, countless birds seemed to be summoned, started a frenzy of scrubbing. The helicopter hovered in midair, lost control, and the signal was completely lost. Meanwhile, Shaw's summoning finally took effect. Somewhere in the South Pacific, Godzilla, who had slumbered in the deep sea, finally awakens. Fortunately, everyone was safe and sound. They met up with Shaw on the beach. This was also the first time everyone had such close contact with Titan X on land. But he was like a mountain, lying there, standing still, barely moving. Keiko and Shaw clearly disagreed. Keiko believes that cooperation is necessary now. Because their goals were aligned, he opposed Shaw bringing Godzilla into the battle. But Shaw disagreed. He believed that what he did was the way to follow the laws of nature. Keiko retorted, saying no one really understands Titan X's habits. Past research was only about making more weapons. Humans need to understand Titan X to protect themselves. Xiaorui pressed Huizi to provide solid evidence, but Huizi remained silent. He admitted he couldn't come up with it, but he insisted on one thing. The mysterious Titan X must be brought back to the Millennium Route, otherwise people might die. The waiter was very firm. He was unwilling to let anyone become a victim. While they were arguing, Kate walked alone toward Titan X, and his condition was very off. It was as if some emotion was pushing him forward. He stood close to Titan X to observe. Suddenly, Titan X slowly opened its eyes, revealing green eyes. But Kate didn't back down. His emotions gradually calmed down from fear, as if he had finally confirmed something soon. Titan X suddenly released its tentacles. Kate discovered a nest inside. Kate stared intently, a long time. Suddenly, I realized that Titan X already had a missile in the production nest. He finally understood why Titan X had strayed from its route and stopped here, not leaving, not attacking. Instead, it is for laying eggs, so now he can leave. Suddenly, Kentaro receives a call from Isabel from the top company, and Kentaro reveals they found Titan X. But he hesitated whether to tell anyone about the giant beast's egg-laying story. He wasn't sure if this was the result his father wanted. Isabel directly took the pressure and told Kentaro his father died at Kate's hands. He also said, no matter what Kate wants to do, it will only bring more death and destruction. Jantalan was pushed to his limit, but eventually changed his stance and said the plan was feasible, telling Isabel to ignore the scarabs. He directly revealed that Titan X was laying eggs. Meanwhile, Godzilla finally appears on the sea with a massive back-and-back piece, breaking through the water's surface. The Emperor organization also discovered Godzilla immediately, but at the same time, they also discovered several unknown vehicles. Having already crossed the Imperial Organization's security line, Titan X also noticed a red glow instantly glow from Godzilla's body. To protect the nest, he took the initiative to climb up. Godzilla bursts forth from the water, and his epic battle with Titan X is about to begin. At this moment, Apex Company began to act with a clear goal. It is that egg from the tide at this time. Kate also sensed something was wrong. Apex Corporation was actually summoned by Kentaro. The battle between the two giant beasts began. At this point, Titan X still hadn't realized his ammo had been stolen. Godzilla and Titan X are similar in size, fight directly in the diving zone, engaging fierce close quarters combat. But when Titan X spotted the helicopter, its emotions instantly spiraled out of control. He had lost all desire to fight. He just wants to desperately break free from Godzilla's restraints to rescue his own child. But Godzilla severely suppresses him. Finally, Godzilla unleashed his ultimate. His back began to emit blue light, and the sound of charging grew louder and louder. Then, an atomic breath burst out. But Titan X no longer cared about the pain in its body, madly chasing helicopters. Kate and the others watched it all, knowing that things had completely spiraled out of control. They originally wanted to rescue a lost mother beast, but now, humans have directly taken away what matters most to him. Titan X Invisible Romance tracked all the way to the edge of Skull Island. Godzilla was tailing the enemy from behind, as Titan X, which humans thought would be the overlord of the deep sea. He fought Godzilla to the death in the ocean, but things turned out unexpectedly. Titan X seems very wary of Godzilla. The two beasts rode from afar, as if they had reached some kind of agreement. Godzilla turned away from humanity, and only then did he understand. It turns out Godzilla doesn't just beat up every giant beast he sees. They speculate that Godzilla's duty is to maintain order among the giant beasts. Godzilla may have already fulfilled his duty. He was just driving the other person back to where he was supposed to stay. No need to kill. But now new problems have arisen. Now, it is clear that a new force has gotten involved. They stole the child of Titan X. it seemed as if an even greater conspiracy was brewing. Moreover, before confirming that the Emperor organization had rescued a group of survivors on the beach, those people said Kate and Kentaro left with their team, but did they willingly follow along, or were they taken away? That is unknown. They now had to return to Skull Island to rescue the person. At the same time, they sought ways to send Titan X back to the world axis. Meanwhile, a helicopter arrived over Skull Island. In the cabin, Kate saw that they had already placed the giant beast egg on an open area. Kate believes that stealing the offspring of the giant beast, it only angers the other side, which is inhumane. Kentaro insists these creatures are not human. Humans cannot be measured by a single set of standards. Meanwhile, Xiao Air and his group also entered the skeleton island. Xiao Mei brought tracking equipment, confirmed the signal from Titan X still strong. As long as the battery is active, the ground curtain can be locked indefinitely. Start issuing instructions, clearly explaining the risks. Kongo rushes over whenever he sees foreign beasts landing on the island. All they can do is fast in and out, find out who led Titan X to where it was, then send him back to the world axis, where the team receives orders to begin advancing. Meanwhile, Huizi found images from geomorphological satellites in her husband Billy's profile. If the Titan's migration really ends at Skull Island, then Skull Island might be the gateway for the giant beasts to enter and exit the world's axis. This inference directly turns Skull Island into a key node in the global behemoth network. Keiko pointed out that if Billy's judgment is correct, there must be naturally formed stable cracks nearby. Meanwhile, Kate and Kentaro enter an abandoned base. Isabel clearly knew as well. There is another central rift on Skull Island. From there, you can travel anywhere through the behemoth network, and what he wanted was not a brief entrance. Instead, it is a crack that can maintain stability over the long term. Isabel wanted to travel through time and space through the rift. Such words could even rewrite their previous fate. Kentaro also had the same goal, which is why he helped Isabel. He wants to change the past and save his father. Hongji Kate immediately saw through this attempt and directly pointed out, when they want to treat the world's axis as private, once the optical machine opens the rift, no one knows what kind of calamity will happen. Meanwhile, Shore and his group advanced through the jungle. The tracker showed the target was just ahead, but as the group moved through, someone was suddenly dragged up to high ground by an unknown force. They still haven't found Titan X. The local monster attack, knocked down by the skeleton, scattered in all directions. Suddenly, Xiaomei was also caught by the monster's tentacles. Fortunately, the earth curtain grabbed his hands at the critical moment. The group was scattered, and Kiko and Shaw discussed the hunting entrance inside the cave, comparing maps with the target. If we can find him, maybe we can send Titan X home. Shaw and the other decided to split up and push into a group, using the tracker to find the Nautilus. Another group took advantage of the time to search for proportional markings for the hunting mouth. Kate mentioned that tracking the giant beast alone makes it impossible to directly find the crack. He said that without a time machine, the past cannot be changed. He broke down emotionally and mentioned his father, saying he didn't want them to be like this. He didn't want anyone else to get hurt. Seeing the plan about to be disrupted, Isabel directly ordered someone to escort Kate away from Skull Island. Soon, the countdown to the base has entered a critical phase. Subordinates report. Titan X arrives in about 12 minutes at speed. At the same time, Kong also moving in that direction. It may have sensed that Titan X and Isabel requested interference. He ordered the roar of the furnace beast to be played. Helicopter-mounted speakers echoed through the valley, trying to divert Kong away from interference. It really worked. Vajra rolled through the mountain crack. Next, Isabel brought Kentaro to a platform. The truck, carrying the giant beast egg, entered a designated area. Isabel comforted Kentaro by saying she didn't have the resources her father had. Only trust funds and a group of smart people. Now there is Kentaro too. Kentaro still felt unsure of what he could contribute. Isabel directly brought up Kentaro's identity, claiming he was from the Landa family, so it was most appropriate. Then he proposed that the issue of King Kong must be solved first. Because Kong operates on the island, they cannot establish a base. Giant Elang realized the other might be trying to make the two giant beasts fight. They even considered letting Titan X take them down. Vatra, he immediately objected, believing it was impossible and should not happen. Isabel insisted that it was necessary. At that moment, the figure of Titan X appeared in the distance. Isabel judged the timing to arrive at the base, begin the first phase of action. Titan X slowly approached the giant beast egg. Then he turned and roared at the two of them, about to vent his anger. At this moment, Isabel issued the order to carry out the order. Hidden nozzles. The giant beast spews thick smoke and chemicals, instantly enveloped in mist.
Painful struggle.
Soon after, he staggered and fell to the ground. Isabel's team used the special anesthetic Mayun Titan X. They then used Xiaomei's previous research to connect to Titan X's nervous system. Although Apex previously failed to control Titan X, but Isabel's goal was not to completely control the giant beast, but rather letting him lose control and push his aggression to the limit. This way the goal of eliminating Vajra can be achieved. Meanwhile, Kate was just about to take off at the helicopter. Regardless of the danger, escape quickly. Then, he shuttles through the base to the communications room. He started up the old equipment in the dark. He connected to the outside signal and got in touch with Xiaomei. Kate told Xiaomei and the others to leave the island immediately. This shows that Isabel has an entire base here, and they are leading Titan X here. After hearing this, Xiaomei and Tim, they immediately realized things were worse than they thought. They must arrive before Konggang and turn the situation around. Meanwhile, Shaw and Kiko enter a smoky wasteland. The ground is covered with giant beast skeletons like a massive slaughterhouse. This means humans have carried out massacre-style operations against the giant beasts here. This place is not just terrifying, it feels more like evidence of guilt. Huizi dug out an old-fashioned camera from among the frames. He recognized it as Billy's belongings. He realized Billy might die here. Emotions instantly collapsed afterwards. Kiko digs up a metal native object in the mud. He recognized it as the detector made by Dr. Li Mu immediately after. They found that the second and third ones were much more numerous, and the brand information on it was even more shocking. The time mentioned above, the locations come from different years and regions. These include New Guinea, Lakshanes, Kazakhstan, and others. The time span extends even more than several decades. Kiko finally understood that Billy was throwing probes into cracks all over the world. Then all these detectors come out from here. In other words, this is the central hub, a key node in the Behemoth network. This discovery proved that Billy's theory was not a fantasy. It was the trajectory he spent his life filling in the map. Huizi activated the detector. He found a note stuffed inside. When he opened it, he found it was a letter Billy had written to him. He realized why Billy had come here to look for the hunter. It has never been just scientific exploration. Instead, it was to find this discovery that was both comforting and a deeper regret. Meanwhile, at the base, Kentaro was at the Titan X giant beast egg. He found Kate Kentaro and warned him not to get off the helicopter, because there were rampaging beasts outside. Kate took the blame upon herself, saying if he doesn't intervene, maybe it wouldn't have come this far. He believed he had unleashed the demon. Now he wants to lock him up. He asked Kentaro to help him complete the task, but Kentaro bluntly said, "This is impossible." He stated he didn't care about the fate of Titan X and King Kong. He already had a plan. Meanwhile, the anesthetic for Titan X has already lost its effectiveness. After Titan X awakens, his neural activity surges. As the control lever was pulled down, the red spikes on the back of the Titan X lit up. He roared in pain and stood up. This indicates that the stimulus has taken effect. The neural connections were forcing him into a controlled berserk state. Meanwhile, King Kong was moving rapidly through the misty valley. Suddenly, he felt Titan X's roar and spun around sharply. Vajra leapt down from towering cliffs, reaching into the clouds. Tens of thousands of tons of weight, combined with terrifying acceleration from gravity. Like a meteorite, it crashed hard onto the ground. This was not a probing sparring at all. It was a world-shattering deathmatch. Mrs. X, who doesn't have pink crystal spikes. There was simply no time to react defensively. It was this overwhelming force, pressing firmly against the ground and rubbing against the surrounding terrain, under the collision of two massive bodies. Instant change. The hard rock shattered like tofu. Yellow sand and earth swirled up in the sky, completely obscuring the sky. At this moment, Kate was at the very center of the storm. He lay at the feet of these two giants, looking even smaller than an ant. Above his head was King Kong's frenzied giant fist. Every heavy strike was accompanied by the Titan X's piercing roar and the earth. Violent tremors. A random falling stone or a tiny deviation from a very thin toe. For it was instantly dead finish. Fortunately, Tim and Xiaomei had already taken control of the base's control room with their team. Xiaomei rushed to the console, quickly analyzed the glaring red on the data screen. Alerts and ever-surging waveform charts. It made her heart sink to rock bottom. The system has already fallen into a vicious feedback loop. There is always the risk of another collapse. He keenly realized that this was not a code error at all, but someone deliberately maximizing the connection power and the other party's true intentions. It was not at all about tame or controlling this giant beast. Instead, he wanted to use extreme painful stimulation to completely anger him. Now, routine operations have completely failed. The only way is to carry out a rough physical disconnection. Meanwhile, the life and death struggle outside the base had entered its most brutal phase. Kong, relying on his more agile movements and violent strength, suppressing every hand-to-hand fight between Titan X and the two gigantic bodies, can trigger a small, localized earthquake, and Kate could be affected at any moment. At the moment, the Vanguard was about to strike. Kiko drove a stolen jeep. charging through like an angry beast. He forced his way through the gap between the two Titan behemoths. Yunxi was still about 10 meters from Nanking, so she decisively drove the car to the top. A gust of wind strong enough to blow people away rolled and crawled over to Kate's side. He grabbed Kate, who was almost buried alive, and the two supported each other, running desperately in the battle of giant beasts. At this moment, the enraged Titan X relied on its size and tentacles advantage. He firmly suppressed King Kong. The two fought with all their might and finally broke into the base. At that moment, Titan X suddenly turned and found his child, the instinct of maternal love. This causes the control device to be instantly overloaded. Accompanied by a violent surge of energy, the high-pressure energy binding him instantly dissipated. Then Titan X turned and ran toward the child, the red glow on its body slowly fading. Huge tentacles gently reach into the base, taking the child away. The giant beast that has regained its instincts. Not because Vajra fought desperately and was beaten until his face was covered in blood. The Vajra silently turns and climbs up the hill, make way for Titan X. However, the crisis did not end with Titan X's retreat. Xiaomei quickly identified a fatal problem by comparing the terrain. Titan X went in the wrong direction. It deviated from the established path leading to a rift in the world's axis, heading toward unknown territory. If this extremely dangerous giant is left unchecked, wandering aimlessly across human territory, wherever it goes, will surely bring suffering to the people. The hearts of everyone who had just relaxed were once again in doubt. They must do everything possible to guide this giant beast back onto the right path. Just as everyone was at a loss, when you don't know how to guide a monster weighing tens of thousands of tons, a deafening roar of the propeller roared overhead. Shaw piloted a military-grade heavy helicopter. Breaking through thick clouds, they landed steadily on the grass before them. The four hurried forward to board, but Kate suddenly felt as if she had been pinned down. He stopped in his tracks. He turned to look not far away. Another white helicopter Kentaro preparing to take off was there. His face was covered in tears, his eyes filled with pleading and despair, trying to stop Kentaro from leaving. He had just walked the edge of life and death. He didn't want to lose any more loved ones, but Kentaro was made up of his mind. Faced with Kate's attempts to persuade him to stay, he showed an extraordinary calmness and determination. Kentaro firmly believed there is also a father from another time and space in the world. Axio struggled desperately, waiting for rescue. He believes it is time to take on the responsibilities of being a son. No matter how heartbroken Kate appeared, Kentaro remained completely unmoved. He must stay and find a way to enter the world axis. Time could no longer hold Kate grieving. He forced himself to endure the intense pain in his heart. They turned and boarded the helicopter piloted by Shaw, and the group quickly took off, heading in the direction where Titan X disappeared. Give it your all to catch up. Shaw piloted the helicopter through the complex terrain of the strange rock Spirit Patrol Valley. Gripping the Titan tightly, Xiaomei was anxiously adjusting a set of high-power external audio equipment in the rear cabin. She was preparing to play a special audio clip. Those were high-frequency sound waves that Kiko had previously recorded with professional equipment. It is considered the language used by behemoths to communicate. They tried to use this sound to attract Titan X's attention. Lead it toward the fissure. Xiaomei took a deep breath, pushed the volume to the limit, the earliest sound, and the penetrating high-frequency electronic sound instantly echoed throughout the valley. This tactic really worked. The Titan X, which had been moving blindly, suddenly stopped in its heavy tracks. He slowly turned his massive head, eyes covered in crystals, fixated on the helicopter overhead. But at this critical moment, an accident happened. Due to long-term full-load operation, the amplifier modules of audio equipment, the piercing sound of complete burning stopped abruptly. Lost the guidance of sound. Titan X is clearly losing interest again, ready to continue deviating from the course. Faced with this sudden upheaval, Kate made a decision that sent chills down everyone's spine. He demanded that Shaw immediately fly the helicopter right in front of the giant beast's face, as close as possible. Kiko thought he was crazy. This is pure suicidal behavior. But Kate's gaze was unusually resolute. Shaw looked at Kate, that reckless expression. He gritted his teeth. Highly recommend the sense of control. The helicopter flew toward the Titan X. The helicopter hovered very close to the giant beast's face. The fuselage is enveloped in the powerful airflow generated by Titan X's heavy breathing. Severe turbulence. It felt as if it would disintegrate in midair at any moment. Kate unfastened her seatbelt, leaving only a simple protective strap. The lock faces a suffocating wind resolutely. He stepped onto the wide open hatch slanting panel. He had no weapons, no protective gear. He openly faced this raging ancient giant beast without any concealment. Madame X opened her sword mouth and let out a soul-shaking roar. Terrifying fangs are within reach. Kate closed her eyes, forcing yourself to overcome your most primal fears. When he opened his eyes again, there was no panic in his gaze. Instead, it is an extremely gentle, inclusive, and powerful radiance. Quietly gazing into the eyes of the giant beast, deep within, it continuously sends signals of comfort and guidance, trying to build a kind of legend that exists only in legend. The miracle of cross-species spiritual connection truly happened. Titan X's originally restless and agitated emotions, under Kate's gaze, miraculously it slowly calmed down. A trace of doubt flashed in his huge eyes. She then seemed to understand Kate's intentions. His massive body began to slowly turn. He stepped in the direction the helicopter was hovering. The attendant saw this. He immediately carefully turned the nose around, like a gentle giant dog, flying with Titan X toward the hidden rift, deep within the mountains. The helicopter finally landed in an open river valley, and everyone jumped off the plane. He nervously watched the river ahead. Not long after, the massive body of Titan X appeared on the towering cliffs on the opposite shore. He lifted his head and let out an extremely long cry toward the sky, and a long laugh full of a certain sense of ritual. The voice echoed continuously among the mountains. It seemed to announce a journey of some ancient contract. Immediately after, the once calm river suddenly erupted in an extremely dazzling rainbow-colored light at the center. A thick beam of energy shot up into the sky. A massive swirling energy formed on the water's surface. The whirlpool's sleeping rift was finally fully activated by this returning giant beast. Kate walked alone with determination, walking toward the pillar of light, radiating divine light. He walked to the shore where the water was rushing, and slowly stretched out his arm. Titan X lowered its proud head, and stretched out tentacle-like limbs, extremely tender. It touched Kate's fingertips. At this moment, there was no confrontation between humans and monsters, no killing or fear. There is only one soul resonance that transcends language and species. Kate was in tears. Looking at this giant beast afterwards, the massive body of Titan X gradually merged into the dazzling pillar of light. Accompanied by a violent energy fluctuation and a deafening water explosion beast, it completely disappeared from the human world. It returned to its rightful place, however. Just as the energy from the rift gradually dissipated, standing in the distance, showered through the still not fully closed translucent energy barrier, he actually saw himself decades ago. That young shower wore old-fashioned uniforms, trapped at the other end of the world's axis, separated by twisted space-time, gazing at them from afar as they are now. Huizi followed Xiao'er's gaze and rushed to the barrier. He pats the boundaries of nothingness, trying to hear clearly what the young Xiao was saying to him. But the barriers of time and space are so cold and merciless that they block all voices from being transmitted. Old Xiao'er quietly stood beside Huizi. Her eyes were filled with endless sorrow and tenderness. He quietly told Kiko that young self was actually saying goodbye to him. Until this moment, only then did Huizi finally understand everything. Back then, Xiao'er kept the two of them in secret. The fact that we were once at the center of the world was not due to selfish betrayal, but to protect her. Xiao'er was well aware of the dangers and unpredictability of that world. She would rather bear a lifetime of infamy. He would rather deprive Huizi of the right to choose, and make sure he can return safely to the real world. Return to the path of his original life. Looking beyond the barrier, young Xiao'er smiled and raised his right hand. Old Xiao'er also slowly raised his heavy arm. He returned the gesture with great respect. This is not just a farewell to the years gone by. It is also a regret spanning half a century. The light of the final reconciliation barrier of misunderstanding and sacrifice completely faded away. Everything returned to calm. Only the wind remains, echoing through the valley. Time flew by. After 6 weeks, the apparent crisis seemed to have subsided. Kate and Kiko strolled through the memorial hall of the Emperor organization. The tall walls are engraved with messages of exploration of the unknown, and the name of the pioneer who gave his life. Sai stated that in order to avoid causing massive panic worldwide, and to guard against those who threaten the world's axis of power, the frenzied covetousness of forces harboring ulterior motives, the higher-ups decided to completely conceal their true experience of coming back from the dead. Their names cannot be engraved on the walls of heroes. Their achievements can only be forever buried in darkness. Afterwards, Marcus led the two of them to an underground office. Here, Team unveils the mystery of Emperor Organization 2.0. This is a brand new architecture built to adapt to new forms. It is more concealed. The format is more flexible. Most importantly, once something goes wrong, the authorities can always shirk responsibility, denying any connection or stalking any issues. Marcus pulled out 2 brand new work IDs from his pocket. They were handed to Kate and Kiko respectively. He hoped they could take over this shady underground department, utilize their unique experiences and knowledge, continue exploring the secrets of the Titan world. Kate and Kiko had no other choice to continue searching for family members missing in the unknown world, in order to uncover the truth hidden in the abyss. In the end, they could only grit their teeth and accept this compromise-filled arrangement. Meanwhile, on the other side, Xiao'er's battle was far from over. He did not stop moving just because the rift closed. He came along with his backpack to a secluded water tank in Thailand. In a simple stilted house built on the water, in the dining room, he found a local county resident named Awu. Xiao pulled out a thick volume of Taiju from his sleeve. He brought out the crucial intelligence he wanted. Awu looked at the stubborn, persistent old man before her. His eyes were filled with warning. He told Shaw, "Recently, unidentified forces have appeared. Everywhere I was asking about these ancient secrets. Those people try to control the power of the Titans, trying to play the role of God in this fragile world." To make Shaw understand the seriousness of the situation, Awu rolled up her sleeves without any hesitation, showing the dense clusters on his arms. A huge scar as ugly and terrifying as a centipede. That is the painful price paid for trying to approach the power of the gods. But Shaw was completely unmoved. He had been through too much. Too much was lost. He knew very well how fragile and powerless humans are before true titans. He must find the ultimate trump card to counterbalance this destructive force. Shaw resolutely bid farewell to Awu and drew his sharp machete alone, cutting through the perilous tropical jungle. A bloody path heads deep into the mountains. He climbed up a desolate red earth hillside, panting. When he stood atop the mountain and looked ahead, the scene before him, this completely confirmed his wild suspicions. On the distant horizon, a massive volcano was erupting violently. The silhouette of a massive, breathtaking creature was slowly revealing. That was the Titan behemoth Rodon. He is a legendary ancient sky overlord. At this moment, he was violently breaking free from the crater. He let out an extremely piercing roar, then suddenly relaxed. Those two were enormous, as if burning with hell, a terror as vast as lava with two wings. Xiao lifted his head. He stared intently at the terrifying figure in the sky, capable of destroying heaven and earth. There was not a trace of retreat or fear in her eyes. Xiao had no way out. She witnessed firsthand the cross-time encounter between her younger self and Kiko. She knew time in this world does not flow in one direction. He must uncover the secret hidden deep within the volcano. We must get ahead of those crazy ambitious individuals, hold the key that can determine the fate of the world. The moment Rodon shot up from the crater of the volcano, Shaw knew that humanity didn't have much time left. This conspiracy and struggle spanning decades. Various factions are fiercely competing on this grand chess game, and Titans has returned to its world. Meanwhile, Leiden's flames are igniting new flames of war. The truth behind the Emperor's plan is being peeled back layer by layer. Everyone is struggling desperately in this storm, trying to find that faint trace of vitality. He knew all those previous games were just appetizers. The real war, a final battle concerning the survival of humanity, was only just beginning.